Welcome back to Land House. So last week I was working on my computer and the colors inverted on the screen and everything locked up. I was pretty bummed out about it, and it's not worked since. But after some troubleshooting, I have determined that my SSD with the operating system on it has, well, it went from NTFC formatting to RAW unallocated. So, to remedy that, I have bought a new Samsung 860 EVO from Amazon. I'm going to give this a try. It had really high reviews on everywhere for being a reliable drive. So instead of having you watch me sit here and mess with this computer, how about you take a trip to Grandfather Mountain with the past me. So let's do that right now. Today we're visiting the Grandfather Mountain Mile High Bridge. It's a metal swinging bridge that's elevation of 5,282 feet. It's pretty fascinating here.
Maybe.
Alright, hang on, let me get it.
All the meanness here, all the big, all the body.
Well, in case you didn't know, I work with a group of adults with developmental disability, and I have for the past almost 12 years. And we oftentimes take them to fun places that anybody would go and see and enjoy. And so we went to Grandfather Mountain. It's a mile-high bridge, just a fun place. Hopefully we'll be able to, I'll be able to bring you along later for a hike and maybe camp out there. This road is so rough these days. Well, we have an employee at work that is quitting, and they've asked to be off a little early today. And so I am going in to take care of that shift that's a couple hours being missed there. And tomorrow I think Ashley and I are going to head off to, and Emma too, head off to Asheville.
Oh, you're destructive. That'll train's wreck.
Welcome back to the present. I hope you had a good time up on the mountain. So I have some good news. I was able to install that drive, and it's working flawlessly, and I think faster than it has in a long time. I also am using a program called Ease US, and it is finding all the files from my other drive. So hopefully I'll be able to get all of that data back. Well, I have a few Dragon Ball. I have a few packages I want to open. This one right here is for our upcoming camping trip. So I mentioned last week that I am going to be making my own tent. It's based off the tarp tent design. The Pro Trail is what it's called. But anyway, so I went on to Amazon. Hey, a box in a box. And I got some trekking poles. My dad bought a set of trekking poles, MSR, years ago. And they've been good poles, but they are finally breaking down. And when I say years, I mean like 15 years ago or more. This is the High Trek Endurance Edition. I probably will not be using this bag. So, I don't know if you can see this too well or not, but this picture of some guys, and there's the story that we're a father-son business. I'm pretty sure I saw this same picture on like 5 websites. Multiple websites, same story, father-son business. So I don't know if it actually is true or if it was copied over and over. But anyway, nice. It's got a locking piece here that's adjustable. Anyway, it's got the foot on there, rubber foot, and then has the spike under that. So anyway, I might do a review on these later, but I forget what I paid for these, like 30 bucks maybe. So they weren't super great, but should be well enough. Besides trekking poles, I ordered some material from Ripstop by the Roll. It's where I have ordered my material for most of the projects I've made. So I've got this really nice waterproof sil nylon. It is so thin. It's really amazing. These two colors, this red color and this almost black, but it's supposed to be brown, they were really cheap, like $4 something a yard, and that's why I went with those colors. And then the really fine bug netting, which is no-see-um. I think I paid $3 a yard for that. And then I got a zipper with some of those double pull there. So anyway, I'm going to be making my own tent soon, and hopefully everything goes well with that. Now lastly, this is a review item here. Wowtac. I've worked with them for a few different lights, and I have been so impressed with their work, but this is a new light that they've got. This is the BSSV3. It's one of those tactical lights. Years ago, my dad and I bought Coleman Peak 1, I think Cobra tents from Walmart. They weren't very much, maybe 70 bucks or less. But my brother borrowed one a couple years ago, and he broke one of the poles, and I guess he just threw the pole away. So I had to go on eBay and buy a new pole. Unpopular today. This pole is just a straight pole, but the tent needs to have two 45s that you bend down and snap into the tent. And since I don't have those, I went online and I found two companies that made them. Surprisingly, they're not very popular. One was going to be like $15, which seemed a little bit much for two little pieces of aluminum. And the other one was $7, but had like a 60-day shipment from China. So it wasn't going to be here in time for our camping trip. So my temporary fix is to take this aluminum pipe or tube, I forget which one it is, and cut it into a small section here and see if I can bend it into a 45. I don't have a vise, but I figure maybe I can just take some tools and give it a try. So let's see what we can do with this. I was just browsing around my shop to see what would be best to bend this with, and I have these metal poles that will be used for my ladder poles. Anyway, I thought maybe I could use these to put over the end of the pipe here and bend this aluminum, hopefully without much trouble. So let's just get these on here and see what happens. I have goals for the future to have a couple of shop vise in here, and that would help a lot with this kind of project. But so my thought was, what if I can slide one end of this pipe, too many of these plastic things on here. Yeah. Slide this to, like, you know, here. And then this one could be on this end. Maybe I could just bend this. Let's see. We're about to find out. Okay. Let me see if I can find something to measure that angle with. And here's the finished product. I just bent it there in the middle. It's close to a 45. I just held it up to that to see how close it was, and it's pretty close. But mostly the tent poles will just slightly bend over, so if I have to put a bigger bend in this, I will just do that. So I'm going to go inside and see if I can't match up the tent size that I need and get this fixed, because I think we're gonna go camping in 2 weeks. Really good news. Everything backed up as it should. I was able to stick my SSD drive here, the old one, and get things pulled off of it. I also made the stand under here taller, so that hopefully it'll have less of a dust issue. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that thing out and put my other drives in and start getting all my software back on here. Ugh, ice, ice, baby. Yeah. So yesterday it rained for, I'm gonna say somewhere around 8 to 10 hours, just all day long. And then today the temperature has dropped from 65 to 31, and it's just snowing out there. So a company contacted me months ago and said, we want you to try out our weed eater attachment. It's called the Badger Head, I believe. And they're located in Mississippi. And so it's like, hey, you gonna test out the equipment we sent? And I was like, well, I would, but it's snowing. And here it is again. But I just bought some gas. I'm gonna put some the oil in it for a 2-stroke engine. And that's a test that's coming up pretty soon. Last year I tried out the Shark Head weed eater attachment, and it's my second most watched video. I found that yard maintenance individuals are very passionate about their equipment and will give their opinion openly here on YouTube. So hopefully the Badger Head attachment will do better than the Shark Head. Maybe Shark Bite? No, that's anyway, Shark something. Would you believe me if I told you we woke up to an inch of snow this morning? Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to find snow out here now. But we certainly did get it last night. If you don't believe me, watch the flashlight review video and you'll see it snowing. Well, I need to make some pressure tanks and then head down to the creek to see if I have a 3/4 inch poly pipe, because I'd like to do a ram pump test with that double waste valve today. So I'm almost out of the PVC pipe that I have over here for pressure tanks. Yeah. But luckily we went to the store and bought more. Well, I just dropped my camera for the first time. That was fun. I'm not sure where my mind was. I was like, I can do this one-handedly. I pulled that back and the whole thing just fell off. But luckily I employed the whole stop it with the foot deal, and it slowed the fall. Anyway, we're still recording, so good stuff. Do you see that wet spot on the insulation up there? That is a problem. Whenever there's a really cold night and then a hot day, that puddles up on the insulation. So for a while now, I've worked with Lacrosse alerts or technology, and they have these probes that are wireless. So I'm going to stick these up in the crawl space and hopefully be able to get a reading on here to see just how the humidity is up there versus in the building here, and be able to hopefully correct the problem. I'm going to have to put more holes in my soffit to vent, and I may end up having to put a vent on the roof as well, so but we'll see. Managed to get that ram pump working. It was really nice to see that result so I can continue my testing. So I didn't mention this, but last Thursday I threw my back out at the gym. I was feeling good, so I did more than I should have. And have you ever heard of Romanian deadlifts? Well, I was doing them, and not much weight, like 50s, 45 or 50 pounds. And I thought, oh, I'll do one more set than usual. Nope. Pop. I guess herniated disc between L4 and L5. But it's a week, it's 6 days later now. And when I drop something, I'm like, well, I can just leave that. Anyway, I'm gonna try and get the video done now for the So I'm gonna try and get the video done now for the Badger Head weed eater attachment. So it's time to prepare the weed eater for this year's use. Emma and I are just leaving the hardware store. I decided I would go ahead and pick up the lumber and hardware for the water tower for the ram pump, because now that the weather has become in the 80s all of a sudden, it's time to get the garden planted here in about a week. So it'd be nice to have that much water available. I think I'm gonna have two 55-gallon tanks up on the water tower. And the ram pump will supply somewhere around, honestly, probably about a quarter gallon a minute. So, you know, it's gonna be enough to water my little garden, I think. Well, I'm glad I was able to get the Badger Head weed eater attachment tested. Tomorrow's high is supposed to be 40. Today's high was about 85. That's what we get for living in the mountains of North Carolina. Well, I'm unloading the wood that I just bought. You know what? So I'm going to completely redo the attempt at water tower that I had going, because it was a bad idea. My new design is going to have 4x4 posts, and it's going to be held together with 2x6s and 2x4s. But let me show you what I had up here. So I still have some 2x4s up here ready to be used. I think I was cutting them for slats or something, but as you can see, this was just not a very good design. I had leveled out blocks for this to sit on, and this design just needed more everything. So I'm going to pull out the unistrut metal and use the 4x4 posts on here and use 2x6s so I can put 2 anchor bolts into the 4x4. And anyway, you'll just see that here pretty soon. So depending on how my back feels and depending on the weather, I'll start on this upcoming week. And if I don't start on this, I may go ahead and start on my workbench that's going to be built in. If you've ever seen Wrangler Star's workbench in his wood shop, he has one that's built onto the wall and it works really well. So anyway, that's the plan for coming up. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this week's vlog. Hopefully next week will be just as exciting. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye. Oh, I forgot. I just checked the workshop attic space. The temperature up top was 112 degrees, 78 in here. The humidity up top was 33%. The humidity in here was 47%. So I think one of the reasons that it's the condensation's pulling up here in the building is because probably poor airflow up top, and also because it's more humid in here than it is up there. I'm gonna have to do some research on condensation, but anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.